Hello, Reggie.
How
Long time no see.
are you, sir?
We're doing all right. Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Yes,
Everything's okay?
I'm alive. I'm alive, thank God. That's the essential ingredient.
Amazing. Amazing. Good for you. Good for you.
And how about you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. Baruch Hashem. Everything's okay. And what can I say? It's a beautiful day over here on this Tuesday.
Overcast, or is it overcast, or is it nice and sunny?
It's nice outside. It is overcast a little bit. It's a little cloudy, but it's like, I'm just checking the weather report because I just was walking around. I guess I wasn't looking up. I just felt nice.
That's all good.
Just doing my thing. But that's important. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Hello, Liba. Hello, Davida. I think. No. There we go. Now we have. Oh. Liba's with us. And hello, Liba.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
All righty. We have
Rabbi
Davida coming
Minty,
on.
Is today a special day? For I was watching someone talk about the Rabbi. Was this the day that he went to France to get his mother?
Today? I don't know. Next week is the day that he came to America. That's a day we celebrate. The day that he escaped Nazi Germany, Paris, and fled on the last boat in 1941. One, I guess, in some context, the last boat, and made his way over to America. So that's next week.
Oh, I must have missed the beginning then. Thank you.
Well, it could be that today marks one of those, one of the milestones. I'm sure it was a longer journey. Could be. Hello, Shaul. Welcome
Good afternoon. Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
How are you?
Baruch
Is it
Hashem.
good afternoon? I guess it's good afternoon unless it's morning in Japan.
I think we missed morning in Japan already. It's also the afternoon in Japan.
I lost track of the hours.
That's it. I guess we missed out, but we still have California. Sometimes we have, what's the time now, Reggie, in Ohio? Is it 11 or 12? Same time as us?
It's 12.
12. All right. So we
Yes.
have Calgary. Sometimes Eugenia will join us, maybe. Maybe she's on Facebook. Hello to everybody on Facebook. And to Yaakov Yehuda is with us. To Yaakov Yehuda. Hello, Leslie.
Hi.
Welcome. All righty. Okay, well, today is our first day of trying this new schedule out. So I'm sure everyone was busy preparing yesterday so that you can fact check me for whatever I say today. No, I'm just kidding. All right. But I had a wonderful day yesterday. Baruch Hashem, did miss our yeshiva experience, but we'll have to do double good today, I guess, or triple good, because we got to make up till Thursday also. So this is the situation we're in as of now for the next few weeks. So we'll try our best. We will try our best. So I was thinking that perhaps the best idea would be to focus on the first half of the parsha on Tuesday and the second half of the parsha on Thursday. Maybe we could try to do that. Not always will that work. I guess so many times there's many halves to the parsha. It's like sometimes they're pizza slices. But this parsha actually kind of works because we have a primary story that takes over I guess I would say 3/4 of the parsha. And then the last quarter talks about two other things, which actually are very prevalent to our day-to-day life, but seemingly not much to do with the story of the parsha as a whole. So we'll leave those for Thursday. Please God, we'll discuss them at length and try to see the practicalities, how they are on our daily calendar. Hello, Leah. Welcome, welcome. All righty. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll discuss today the story of the spies, and I'm going to pull up. Hello. Welcome back. I will pull up our parsha, and we'll kind of cut and paste a few psukim, a few different from here and there, which we're going to try to cover over the last 3 days. Kind of get the storyline from the actual parsha, a story which perhaps some of us are familiar with, the story of the spies. That's pretty much this week's parsha, Parshat Shalach. What I'll try to do again is we'll try to cut through some verses from the past 3 days, get the basic gist of the story on the shallow end, and then kind of take a deep dive into understanding somewhat of the deeper end. Hello, Eugenia. Welcome. We were waiting for you to get a good morning, because otherwise we're still stuck in the afternoon. So.
Good morning. Sorry, I was a little late.
No worries. But we're glad to have a morning with us. So thank you. And there we go. Hello to Herschel. Welcome. Good to have you on. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Reb Herschel. All right. So this is HebrewBooks.org. It's a great website, but it's not what I want to show you. Here we are. The Kahat Chumash. Okay. So this is it. No, it's not it. Maybe I should do this. Daily Chumash. Where did that go? Oh, I thought I had it. Okay. Let's pick it up from here. Learning His Values, Daily Study, Chumash with Rashi. There we go. All righty. We'll put this up there. And we're ready to roll. So, Parshat Shlach. Shlach means to send forth. And it's the story of the spies. Let's get a little bit of context. It is, here it is, Sunday, beginning of the Parsha. Okay, I'm going to mute everybody. And of course, everyone's able to unmute themselves at any given time to jump into the conversation and to share or ask. And would love to hear that. I am having trouble, Baruch Hashem, with I got a lot of stuff I'm busy with, and it's not an excuse for anything, but I just wanted to share with you that if you have any questions on what I'm saying, so if you can try to ask them on the Zoom so that I can try to answer on the spot, or at least tell you that I don't know on the spot, because I'm kind of backed up with a lot of questions that I have not yet answered, and I keep on reminding myself at 12 o'clock at night, and by then it's too late for me to think of answering them or trying to. So if we could leave the questions for the actual Zoom, if that's possible, I'd love to try to make this more of a discussion, and I'm not so worried about getting anywhere as long as we're learning Torah. I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions. Again, better than putting them on the chat. Just I can't see the chat, and I'm just gonna focus on the screen. But if you could just unmute yourself, please jump in. It's okay to interrupt me, and I'd love to try to answer or send you, reference you elsewhere to find a good answer for any questions that you might have on what we discuss. Okay, I apologize for that, and please God, I will answer all the questions that came in previously, but that will take some time. Okay, hope you'll understand. Thanks for that. All right, so here goes. We are starting off a story in the desert. The desert is where the Jewish people happen to be. If you were flying on a plane, you would spot them probably because they were quite a big situation, a few million people. And we had just left Mount Sinai. Let's remember the context of the story. We had just left Mount Sinai, and the Almighty was making things happen so that we can get into the land of Israel as fast as possible. But of course, we messed things up. So we started kvetching, and that was in last week's parsha. We complained about this, we complained about that. Ultimately, deep down inside of us, we were feeling a little bit in need of a deeper relationship with Hashem. So So when people say, like we discussed last week, when people say, Judaism is so boring, or, Torah means nothing to me. Well, they're right, because they're only relating to a certain level, which obviously for their level of soul, it's too shallow for them. So their soul is not going to let up until they discover a deeper relationship with their creator through learning a deeper dimension of the Torah or getting deeper involved. But if they're just being given a shallow level, so then, their neshama is saying, nah, it's not for me. So it's usually the other way to look at it. Sometimes we hear people, we get concerned when people say, oh, this is not for me. Judaism is not for me. It's boring. It doesn't talk to me. Yeah, you're right. Whatever's being catered to you, whatever you're looking at, perhaps, that level is too shallow for you. You're a much deeper soul. Your soul is demanding more. So the soul is demanding for a deeper relationship. The way it's manifested or expressed in the person's thoughts is he thinks that the relationship, the whole thing is a goner. So what we need to do is to educate or try to cater to a deeper appreciation and understanding that perhaps they're looking for a deeper bond, not no bond. So this is the Jewish people on Mount Sinai. They just became married to God, and their souls are starting to kick, and they're demanding a deep relationship with their Creator, and it's manifested by some to just fetch about the meat. So this is what happens, and in last week's parsha, and then this week it continues on that just a few days, literally a few days, or actually. A few weeks, actually. Here it is. A few weeks. The story of the spies starts on the 29th day of Sivan. They got held back for a month, but yet, so let's remember on the calendar, they leave Sinai on the 20th of Iyar, and they are held back for a bit because of the complaining, so they had to stay put for a little bit. They got the quails. The quails came over a month. That was last week's parsha, those big geese or chickens of some sort, and over the month's time, many of them, or a certain percentage of the Jewish population, died as a consequence for their complaints. And now it's time to move on. So now it's already to the 29th day of Sivan, and the plan is still to get into the land of Israel quite quickly. They're just a few days away, and the Almighty is trying to hasten, is making things run a little bit fast. The Jewish people come along to Moses and they say, not so fast. We want to send our own spies in. We want to send people in to scout out the land. Let's make that happen. So interestingly enough, this is going to be a very important Rashi to understand the entirety of the story. Is that for the Rashi brings down from the Medrash, Shlach Lecha, the very first verse of the parsha. So the verse reads, let's go back. Shlach Lecha Nashim, send out for yourself men. And this is who's speaking. This is the Almighty speaking to Moshe, as if a response to something. Although we don't really see any complaint or request from anybody, we just kind of get straight to the answer from the Almighty that you could send men. Sure, go send men to scout out the land, which I will give to the Jewish people, 1 man per tribe. Okay, should be going. So what does it mean, send out for yourself men? Shlach lecha anashim, send out for yourself men. So Rashi points out right away, L'da'atcha, I'm going to go to the second Rashi, L'da'atcha, according to your own understanding. What's going on? Ani eini mitzava lecha. The Almighty says to Moshe, I am not commanding you to send these people to scout out the land. Im tirza, but if you're asking, if you want it, then shlach, do as you please. Go ahead, send them. Why? So Rashi gives us the backstory. What's going on? Remember, all we know from the actual verses is that the Almighty comes to Moshe and says, okay, you could send them. Well, what's going on? Send who? What? Where? When? So Rashi gives us the backstory. Lefishibau Yisrael, the Jewish people came to Moses, and they said to him, and this is recorded actually later in the book of Deuteronomy, that they came Nishlecha Anashim Lefaneinu. The book of Deuteronomy, the 5th book of the Torah, is really a repeat of the events that happened throughout the entire time of the desert. That's why there's a repeat of the 10 Commandments there, etc. So so what did the Jewish people come to Moses? They said, we want to send people ahead of us to scout out the land. And as the verses say quite clearly, the Jewish people came upon Moses. So then Moses says, okay, I'm not doing anything. Moshe consulted with the divine presence, right? He had the Almighty on speed dial. This was a big deal. Should I acquiesce to the Jewish people's demand or not? So the Almighty answers, the Almighty said, 1 second. I said it's a good land. What do they need to scout out for? I said it's a good land. And he quotes the verse. So the Almighty continues to say by their lives, kind of like almost an oath. This is going to be a tripping block for them. They're trying to put their own minds in. It's going to be a tripping block. There's going to be room to fall, which, as we will see, there was a big fall. And ultimately, through that, if they don't step up, they will not inherit the land. They themselves will not enter the land. So right away, we see from the beginning of the story that the Almighty is not happy about this whole thing. And Moshe wasn't sure. And he's asking God, and the Almighty says, okay, send out for yourself, men. Okay, if you want, you can do it. Kind of putting it on Moshe, but the basic gist is, I'm not encouraging this. You do what you want. Interesting. Okay. And then if you do what you want, there's place to fall. And that ultimately that's what happened. Okay. So it's almost like a setup. Again, we're getting stuck into these setups. But okay, let's continue on. So Moshe, they're situated in the desert Paran. That was the place where they had gone to from Mount Sinai. And he collects the people, the 12 of the most righteous. Interesting, the most righteous of the Jewish people. The Medrash actually tells us that these were the 12 best of the Jewish people. And to the point, Rashi brings down from the Medrash, at this time, they were very virtuous. They were kasher.
Can I ask the first question?
Absolutely. Break the ice, please. Jump in.
Yeah, in the middle of my lunch. I'm sorry. What was I going to say? Yeah, virtuous and wonderful, and they saw miracles, and they had the sea split, and they knew God was wonderful, and the 10 Commandments. And why do they have to send spies? Can't they trust Israel being wonderful because God is sending them there? Like, what is their problem? What was their problem?
Yeah, excellent question. Excellent question. Apparently, your soul is demanding more. Beautiful. So we're going to try to supply more. But what I want to do first, I want to just get through the gist of the story, which many of us are familiar with. Perhaps some of us are not so much. So the basic story, the shallow end, and then I'm going to hope that all of our souls are demanding for more. So we're gonna jump into that today, and but that question will be the kickoff to getting into more. Yes, good point. Good point. What is going on there? But I want to point out right away, Leah, just to keep you here. That the Rashi says, interesting word, interesting title. That at that time they were kosher. Okay, we're not talking about animals, we're talking about people. It doesn't sound very PC, Oh, you're kosher. No, I wouldn't want someone to call me kosher. I'm just kidding around. But the idea is, why not say that time they were tzaddikim? That would sound more like it. They were righteous. So the English is virtuous. Virtuous sounds pretty cool. Pretty virtuous. But in the Hebrew, it's kesherim. So it's an interesting way of titling them. And we're going to pick on that, hopefully, and see a thread going through this whole thing. We'll come back to that. So we list out all these 12 people, and they're sent off, included in this group is Joshua. Interestingly enough, that Joshua, who's going to be the upcoming leader of the Jewish people, and what seems very clear from the Medrashim is that he knew it, the Jewish people knew it, and even we saw from Rashi last week that it was a known fact that Joshua would be taking over Moses when they were about to enter the land of Israel. But here we have we have this verse saying these are the people which Moshe sends to scout out the land. Vayikra Moshe ben Nun Yeshua. Moshe calls Hosea, he calls him Yeshua. So first of all, we get to understand that Joshua is not really his name. Joshua was a name made up by Moses. Pretty good name to make up. Nice name. But his original name is Hosea. Okay, Hosea. So it's and at this point, Moshe changes his name to Yehoshua. Why is that? Well, if you put the letter, all that happens is Moshe adds the letter Yud to the beginning of the name, or J to the beginning of the name. But we'll stick to the Yud being the 10th little letter of the alphabet. And now it becomes from Hosea, it becomes Yehoshua. And Rashi points out, why is that? Because Moses is praying for Joshua. And he's saying, may the Almighty, who is hinted to now in your name, because now with your name being added a Yud at the beginning, so if you look at this name over here, Yehoshua, at the very beginning, you have the Yud and the Hey, which is one of the Almighty's names. Ka. We don't say it with a Y-A-H. That would be improper. You have to say out of context or even in context. But we say Ka. So we take up the K with a Y, or the Y we do a K instead. You might might see that. You might remember that from the Baruch Shamar prayer. Some of us say in the L'Shem Yichud in our blue prayer books, which we've brought out quite often in the past few weeks. In the blue prayer books, you'll see on page 29, 30, page 30, right on top of page 30 in the blue siddur, in the blue kat siddur, you'll have L'Shem Yichud Kuchab Richush Kintei L'Yachadash Shem, and then there's a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. So when we say Shem Yud K Bevav K. But anyways, Yud and Hey is one of the Almighty's names. And now that that's added to Joshua's name, he's praying. Moses is praying for Joshua that he should not succumb. He should be saved from the counsel of the spies. Now, what's going on? One second. They didn't even go anywhere yet. At this moment, we just saw that they were virtuous. They were kosher. And yet Moses is already smelling something spiffy. Spiffy? No, it's not the word. But he's smelling something off, right? And he's saying, okay, Joshua, I'm going to give you an added layer of protection. So the Almighty's not happy. Moshe is smelling something fishy. Perhaps he was tipped off by the Almighty. And Joshua has a new name. Okay. Just an interesting fun fact. When Sarah, Abraham's wife, becomes her name is originally, her name is originally Sarai. If you look in Genesis, Sin Resh Yud, and then the Almighty changes her name when he changes Abraham's name. Abraham was originally Avram, and he becomes Avraham. Abraham to Abraham. When he changes Sarai's name, so he took a Hey and put it instead of the Yud. So instead of being Sarai, now it became Sarah. And there's reason to that. The translation differs, and as it spells out in the book of Genesis, in the beginning of Lech Lecha, I believe it is, the third book of Genesis, but the third parsha of Genesis. But the idea is, a fascinating thing is brought down in the Medrash, I believe it is, that the Yud of Sarai's name went up to heaven and said, hey, I was part of a righteous woman's name. Where am I going to go now? You can't just kick me out like that. You got to put me somewhere new. So the Almighty said, don't worry, I've got someone lined up, future generations. Joshua, I'm going to stick you in front of his name. So instead of being the last letter of a righteous person's name, you're going to become the first letter of a righteous person's name. Just a fun fact. Okay. So here we have it. Moses lines out for them exactly how they should scout out the land. That's continuing on. Check out for this, check out for that. Very, very detailed. You can imagine Moses is like in his tent with a map, and they have pins, and they're stamping here, stamping there, go there, do this, and this is pretty much the Sunday's portion. Monday is when they're actually in the land, and things go sour. They in verse 22, you already see that they come across giants in Hebron, in the land of Israel. Okay, these are descendants of the giant. Okay, descendants of the giant. So we have in the book of Genesis where angels were placed on the earth because they said to the Almighty, destroy the humans before the flood. Destroy the humans. They're look how how they're messing things up. And the Almighty says, well, look, you be a human and try it out for a few days. You angels, you have no way to judge a human. So 2 angels took upon themselves, and they came down to earth, and they became the giants and the Nephalim, and they brought the world to a whole new level of horribleness. So these are descendants of those giants. There's still some left, and they are terrorizing the spies, as we find, and they take some fruits.
Why would the angels do that? Aren't angels supposed to be good?
Yeah, that was my question.
Hello, Diane.
Hello, hello, everyone.
So how could angels have a say? How could angels have a say? Aren't they supposed to be good? I don't know a good answer to that. I can share
Good
with you some
question.
thoughts. It's a great question. I can share with you some thoughts. And angels, the question really is angels in heaven. Meaning, once the angels come down to earth, they take on human features, and they're given a Yitzhahara, so they're not angels anymore. But angels, meaning when, in this context, at least, in this context where they, you know what? I'll stop. I don't know. I'll just say I don't know. And there's some answers you can find. I've read through them, and I still don't know. So I'll leave it at that. All right. So this story continues, and they get fruits, and they finish their spying, and they come back to the Jewish people in the desert, and their answer is they're too strong. Verse 28, Ephes ki azam, the people who inhabit the land are mighty. The cities are extremely huge and fortified. We saw even the offspring of a giant. Impossible. There's the Amalekites that are there, and all these different nations that are there, and there's no chance. Kalev, one of the spies, was Kalev. He was from the tribe of Judah. He, together with Joshua, they were staying away from all this. Kalev jumps up and says, "What do you mean? Moses is gonna, let's put our trust in Moses and Moshe. It's gonna be fine, and let's put our trust in the Almighty. He told us it's good, like Leah said. So you would have been with Kalev. Hello, Yair. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you here." So verse 31 continues that the people's answer back was, no, we're unable to do it. Ki chazaku mimenu. They are stronger than we are. But the word mimenu is really in the singular, and therefore he's stronger than him. Who's the him? The him is the Almighty. And the Medrash, it talks about how Moses had given them one of the 12-lettered names of the Almighty. The Almighty has different names with different numbers of letters. And the spies tried to use it at one point. It didn't work for them. And they said, even the Almighty's names don't have influence on these giants. There's no chance. We're not going. It's terrible. It's too strong for us. And that's it. Verse 1, the entire community raised their voices and shouted, and that night, the people cry. What's that night? That night is the 9th of Av. If you count 40 days from the 29th of Sivan, 40 days later, which is the amount of days that it took them to go throughout the land, is the 9th of Av. The 9th of Av forever becomes Balayin Lahahu. That night, people wept on that night. The Almighty said, there's going to be further crying on this night, and that the 9th of Av, we know, is the day. The 9th of Av is the day that the 2 temples were destroyed. Many horrible things throughout our history happened on the 9th of Av, even further down the line, and it's one of the fast days on our calendar. The 9th of Av, it's actually coming up. What happens is Moshe and Aaron, they are praying to the Almighty to not to inflict punishment right away on the people. The people are complaining. They want to go back to Egypt. They don't want to die in
Uh-oh, frozen again.
See, we're all still here.
Unfrozen.
back.
Right? Yeah.
Hopefully.
Maybe we should text. Well, he must know. Oh, he'll come back on, I suppose, right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's his meeting.
Right.
Tim, you're in Texas?
Yes.
How's the weather? Nice?
It is nice. Baruch Hashem. It's
Hashem.
cloudy and overcast, and we've gotten plenty of rain, thank God.
But it's like 80, 90 degrees? 80, 90?
Yeah, I would, 74.
That's
Oh.
not bad.
Beautiful
We're-
weather.
Yeah,
We're going to have that
right.
in Montreal. We're going to have that in Montreal today, 20 degrees, like 70-ish today.
Yeah.
And we're up north.
73 in London, so it's beautiful.
Not bad. I thought Texas was always really hot, like hot.
We've had a mild summer so far. We've gotten
It's
a lot
not
of
summer
rain.
yet. It's not summer yet.
That is true.
I'll talk to you in a month. You let me know.
The
we don't
further
have-
out west you go, the hotter it gets.
Really? My son is in Edmonton and out west, and he had a snowstorm last week. So I don't know.
Wow.
In Canada,
I was talking about
America. You're talking about US. Okay, here we're talking about Canada. Canada is always like a little colder. Right, Saul?
yeah. The further west.
There we go. I think.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
Hey, you're back. Okay.
All righty. Thank you for your patience.
Okay.
It's been a long time, I guess. I forgot to plug in my laptop. All right, it's plugged in.
No.
It's happened a few times. All right, so let's jump right into the to the depths, because there's a lot left unanswered, or a lot left to deeper stuff. So here's the story. We have to go back a little bit and understand the context of the whole situation of what the Jews are about, and the whole entering to the land of Egypt, into the land of Israel, why the Almighty took us out of Egypt in the first place. Why did he take us out of Egypt in the first place? What was he looking for? A bunch of kvetchers. He knew what he was getting himself into.
Welcome back, Rabbi.
Thank you, Yair. Thank you. So what was the Almighty looking for? When the Almighty came down to Egypt, what we celebrate on a yearly basis, on Passover, we go crazy cleaning our houses for. It's not so much the fact that God, miraculously took us out of Egypt, but the fact that God came looking for us. Because the entire purpose of creation is that he should have a relationship with someone that doesn't feel his presence on a daily basis, and yet should make it their life's mission to put his will before their own. The only way to do that is if our will is not in line with his will. So he went through a whole situation called the Tzimtzum, a whole evolvement of basically creating a world, which the world basically is the Almighty evolved into a world, which basically a world is a concealment on the Almighty. So it's Hashem put himself in a concealment, like a turtle in its shell. It's part of the turtle, but when you look at the turtle when it's hiding in its shell, you say the turtle's hiding. Well, who's he hiding under? His own shell. So the Almighty put himself under this concealment called a world, which is really just him. And the whole purpose is that we should find him. There should be this relationship, a partnership in creation. And when the Almighty gave us the Torah, he gave us the ways of how to find him, how we can make the right choices. He told us what he likes, what he doesn't like, because by us doing what he likes and staying away from things he doesn't like, we are forging a relationship, just like in a marriage or in a serious relationship, any serious relationship. How do you develop the relationship? So there's the starting of the relationship, but then how do you live together for the next many years, please God, is by respecting what each other like, what each other don't like, trying as much as possible to do what the other likes, and trying as much as possible, and even more important, to stay away from doing the things that they don't like. That's basically the mitzvahs. And that's our life's mission, is to be in a relationship with the Almighty. Now, to be in a relationship, again, we have to be initially our own independent being, or at least feel that way, and then develop a relationship with the other. So that's why we were created to feel that we are an other, we are separate, we are a separate entity from the Almighty, and we have to work our way through all the shtus, all of the rubble that comes our way on a day-to-day life. Sorry, to bond with our Creator. Now, that's the story in a nutshell. Leaving Egypt and going into the land of Israel was, or still is, the same story in a bigger sense, because going into the land of Israel is ultimately finding a home where God and I can live together. Land of Israel is the home. There's got to be a home somewhere, right? Marriage, there's a nice wedding and a beautiful, there's the smorgasbord, but ultimately with all the dancing that goes on, the couple wants to go home that night. And hopefully they bought a home or rented somewhere before the marriage, before the wedding, right? So that's the plan. The plan of action is that from the wedding, we go home. So we were going home. We're on our way home. Now, if the Almighty rolled out the whole plan on his own, he rented the home and he brought us there, then there's no relationship. There's no sense of our partnership in this story because he took care of it from the beginning to end. The Jewish people, Moses at their lead, knew this. The Jewish people who received the Torah were holy people, very holy. They were on the level of angels. Now, I know that reminds us of the question, angels sin too, but okay. But let's pretend right now that angels don't sin, usually. So the Jewish people in the desert were it's hard for them to sin, kind of a hard thing. They had revealed miracles, like Leah said. They had seen something. They had a visual relationship or start off a relationship with the Almighty, and they saw stuff. They saw God, whatever that means. At Mount Sinai, the wedding happened. The groom showed up. The groom showed up to the wedding, and now they're going home. But they have to be part of this, because again, if the Almighty does it all, which was what's going on right now. The Almighty was rushing the process, as we learned in last week's parasha, to get them into the land of Israel as quickly as possible. The Jewish people said, wait 1 second. The whole purpose of creation is that we have a part in this, is that our work, our thoughts, our minds, our independent being, which is where you are concealed, where we feel a sense of absolute autonomy, because that's the way you created us. Because we were created in your image, and the Almighty is the only true, absolute, independent entity, not relying on anything else. That because we were created in God's image, so that's the way we feel, that we are the absolute independent being that doesn't have to rely on anything until we find out we got to pay our rent. But anyways, but that's the so that's what we are. So we have to come in with our own minds, with our own requests, and make it work on our terms, so that we, in our independent selves, partner. Ultimately, we say, okay, you know what? This also sounds like a good plan. We could go into the land of Israel. Now, that was the plan at the onset. We're going to send in spies so that we, as humans, not just the Almighty on his side, we're doing our part to also come to terms with this home. However, there's a little catch with that. The catch with giving humans a sense of independence is that they might take it too far. And we did. And we do till today.
They make mistakes.
Exactly. But it's worth it, because that's the purpose. So sometimes purpose overrides comfort. And that's the story of our lives. There's not a life. We never signed a contract that life will be comfortable. That didn't say that. But we did sign a life that says there's purpose in everything that happens. That's life, purpose, synonymous. So the story here is exactly that. There's a purpose that we as independent beings sign on to this. There's a big chance that we'll fall out, that we'll make a mistake, and we did. And there was repercussions, but we still are partners, and partners will. We therefore we have to. We are on our human terms. Humans make mistakes, and the Almighty knows that. He created our system, but that's the whole point. He wants our system to come to terms, and it's taken a long time, but we're getting there. We're getting there, and that's the whole story of the history of the Jewish people. It's all the Almighty could roll out the plan from beginning to end, and we can have a beautiful life, and we wish for that. We still hope and pray for that. But the purpose is not that. The purpose is that we come to terms with it. That's why when Mashiach comes, the whole idea you're learning with Rabbi Fine, you learn to pass the whole Maimonides, the whole, what's this big deal about Maimonides with the Mashiach? I think Rabbi Fine mentioned it a few times. It's the halachic perspective, We think of Mashiach, we don't think of halacha. Halacha is very cut and dry. Halacha is very legal. You think of Mashiach, you think of miracles, you think of Ingal's wings, you think of kaboom, and the whole world evolves into a cherry. So what exactly is this whole idea of putting Mashiach in a halachic perspective? No, because that's the whole point. Mashiach is not about, as Maimonides keeps on putting down on the table, that Mashiach is not about the kaboom. That could happen, but that's God's part. God's part of the partnership is assured. It's His plan. He'll take care of it. It's His world. He'll take care of it. No worries. Tikkun olam, that's His problem, not mine. Our tikkun olam that we have to work out is the next words. B'malchut shakai. It's the next words of tikkun olam, is to fix the world with God's kingdom. That's the next word. That's my job. My job is to make is that I bring in my 2 cents, and that's gonna come with a lot of risk, and it has, but we're still at it. And when we finally finalize the plan, then the purpose is fulfilled. We are not just employees or createes of the Creator. We are now equal footing. We are both creators of this plan. That was the purpose. We should never stay in the lower end as receivers. The Almighty created us from the onset that we should become givers. We should be equal partners. That's why we have to work hard. That's why we have to toil in life, because that's what the Almighty did for 6 days. He toiled. What did God have to toil about in 6 days? Not in creating trees. That's easy. The toil was that He had to evolve Himself into something that conceals Himself. It takes a lot of work. But the idea is we got to do that too. Our way of toil is exactly the opposite. We got to toil to put ourselves on the side, to evolve into what we really are, which is an expression of the Almighty in this world. So I hope, Leah, that kind of gave a little bit of clarity to the picture, to the story of the spies. We didn't get to
Malachim, but the Malachim I didn't get yet.
Malachim, you didn't answer. I don't have an answer for you. It's a good question. Maybe Rabbi Fine will have an answer. Oh. I don't have a good answer for you. But that also answers the idea of kasherim, but maybe we'll leave that for Thursday. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me here. So nice to be back. And we'll see you on Thursday, please God. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Rabbi Mendy. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank
All
you,
the
Rabbi
very best.
Mendy.
Thank you, Rabbi
Bye-bye.
Mendy.
You're very welcome. All the very best.
How is everybody? Hello, hello.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hello.
Yair.
Wow.
Wow.
What's up?
Good to see you. You're looking good. Beautiful. So Sha'o, we have Leslie, Leah, Yair, Herschel, Tim, Diane, Virginia, Abigail, Liba, and Reggie. All right. Beautiful. So it's good to be with everybody. And
Rabbi, I have to leave before 1 o'clock.
no problem. No
Not to
problem.
be rude.
No, that wouldn't be rude if you left.
No.
It's nice that you stay, but it's not rude that you leave. Okay, let us get to some learning. We're going to do Pirkei Avos today, and on Thursday we're going to do Rambam. I kind of switched it around. Just to keep everybody, on their toes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, let us get some ethics before us. We, believe it or not, folks, we're marching, forward. We're moving. We're in number 17, which is the gematria of Toiv. Good. We're doing good. Now, as the old saying goes, if good is good, isn't better, better. So yeah, we're going to go from good to better. So let's start with good. Number 17, Shimon benoi Omer. Shimon, his son Shimon. In other words, the previous one was Rabbi Gamliel. So he had a son by the name of Shimon. And his son, he would say, Kol Yamai, all of my days, my life, Gedalti, I had been raised, Bein HaChachamim, among the wise. That's all my days. That's where I was raised, amongst the Chachamim. V'loi matzasi leguf, and I haven't found anything better for the body, toiv mishesika, than silence. Loya mejish iker. The study is not the main thing, but the essential thing is the deed, the action. And anybody who talks excessively, maybe hate, brings upon sin. So those are the three things, or four, maybe even four things here. First is a statement, and then three things, then three learning pieces. But even from the statement, there's something to learn. So there's a lot here. Does anybody have any questions before I ask my questions? Or the commentaries questions, not even mine. Some of them are mine, but anybody have some questions? Go ahead.
I just thought about something. One of the statements was, oh my gosh, silence, no, talking too much might mess up doing actions and deeds. Why is that? I could talk and still do deeds. I could talk a lot and still do my mitzvahs.
Okay, good question. Anybody? By the way, we're only asking for questions now, not answers. Not answers, just questions. Anybody else have a question? Yair, Herschel, Diane, Reggie.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Questions? What's your question?
What?
Difficulty in number 17 in front of you? There's four different things here. What do you find difficult in understanding these statements? Are they all, simple, easy, and, we can move on?
Oh, okay. So my question would be, one who speaks excessively brings on sin. Why? Like, why? Like, why, if a person who, talks a lot,
that's my question.
Sin? I know, but he obviously didn't hear it, and he's asking the same one as you. Look at that. You both think alike.
Politicians.
Politician. No, we didn't ask for answers. We're asking only for questions. Okay, excellent question. Why should that bring sin? Excellent.
Silence is best for the body. Why is that? That was one of your statements?
No, you're asking why silence. Okay, excellent. Shoal, what kind of questions do you have? Leslie, Tim, Reggie.
It says the essential thing is not study, but deeds. And I thought study was one thing that we had to do.
Oh, excellent. Diane, way to go. Right. What do you mean study? Well, that's what we're doing right now. We're studying. So what do you mean the essential thing is not study, but deed? It's a mitzvah. First of all, it's a mitzvah.
Right.
So what does it mean exactly? Excellent. Good. I'm not hearing from Tim. I'm not Reggie. Didn't hear from. I didn't hear from Abigail, Eugenia, Liba, Tim, Leslie. Anybody? Okay, Tim, you can't.
Is the question?
Go ahead, Reggie.
I'm sorry, Rabbi.
Go ahead.
Is the question that's being or the statement that's being made, is it saying that it's better to sit in silence while you study because it's about the deed and not necessarily anything else? I'm kind of
confused. Okay, that's a question in of itself. What does this mean over here? That sounds a bit confusing because when is this silence? As opposed to the deed, right? In other words, if the essential thing is the deed, it sounds like you're doing something. How does that fit in with the silence of the body? Excellent. Okay, Shaul. Okay, I don't hear you. And that's okay. Because if you're not saying anything, then there's nothing to hear. Shaul is practicing the silence of the body. Got it. Tim is practicing it. Eugenia is practicing it, and Abigail is practicing. I see. I didn't know I had such wise people with me. Good. All right, you're teaching me a lesson. But that being said, any other questions?
Rabbi, I have a question.
Go ahead.
When he says one who speaks excessively, does that refer to Lashon Hara or does it refer to the flatterer?
No, just talking excessively.
Thank you.
Okay, that was clarification, clarified. Anybody else before I go into it? Okay, so the first question I have is his son Shimon. What do you mean his son Shimon? Shimon who? Shimon the son of Gamliel. How come his father's called the Rabban Gamliel, rabbi, right? He's got a big title. And now we're talking about leaders of the Jewish people over here. So he's also where's his title? Now you want to say, he must be like Hillel, didn't have a title. That's true. First of all, his son Shimon. We didn't say like about Hillel or anybody else, the son, the son. Okay, you might say, okay, well, he was the next leader. So generation after generation, maybe that didn't happen before. True. But yet a title's not there. So what's the idea of son? No title. And if we look at other places in his teachings, he does have a title of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. So that's first question. Second question, all my life. So it sounds like all my life, meaning, not when he was a teenager, he's saying this, not when he was young, but when he's older. So what does it mean? All my life I was been raised among the wise. I mean, you are the wise man now. You're the leader of that generation. So it's a funny comment the way he's saying it. Saying all of my youth, I was raised among the wise. Get that? What do you mean all my life? Second question. Third question, I found nothing better for the body than silence. What's the significance here for the body silence? And how about the soul? And for the soul, where's it's specifically the body. In other words, he's not saying for my full personhood, right? It's only making reference to the body, as opposed to the soul. It seems to making a differentiation, seemingly. So let's understand that. That's a third question. And why indeed is that silence and good? And I found nothing better, meaning there's other things, but this is the best thing. What are those other things? That's a fourth question. Is anybody keeping count, or am I keeping score over here? Canadians won. Shoal. Must be our Torah learning. Oh, I'm breaking you out of your silence almost. The essential thing, then the next thing, the essential thing is not the study, but the deed. So Diane asked this very good question, right? Well, what does that mean exactly? What do you mean the essential thing? And Torah study is not essential? So let's go out and give charity. Let's go out and do other things if this is not essential, you know.
It's written in the prayers, written in the prayers after all the good things that you're supposed to do. Torah is the most important. Studying Torah is the most.
Very good. Thank you, Leah. Thank you. Very good. Yeah, it says in the beginning of morning blessings, at the end of actually the morning blessings that we make first thing in the morning, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, that the study of Torah is equal to all of them. So how does that fit in with this? And then, so that's number 5. And then one who speaks excessively brings on sin. So first of all, what's the definition of excessive? I think that was a question that was asked by Lashon Hara. I think Liba, you asked that if I recall correctly, right? Yeah, I think it was you, Liba, that asked the question. Is that Lashon Hara we're talking about? Well, it's not Lashon Hara because it's the word excessive speech. It's not forbidden speech. Forbidden speech, we understand that brings sin. So that's all what it's talking about. So what is excessive speech? How do we understand that? So that's number 6. So hold me accountable, folks, to all of this, that I make sure that we answer all of this, okay? Are you ready? You're with me. Good.
Scared? I'm kidding.
I want you to be against me. Yeah, sorry, you said something.
Don't want to find out the truth, you know?
All right. So first of all, who is this Shimon ben Gamliel? Some of you might remember him in a painful way because he is one of the 10 martyrs that we read about on Yom Kippur by the Avodah. When we do that special part in the Musaf service, it's painful reading in the Avodah parts. It's in the afternoon. That's when, synagogue attendance is waning. And we read a part of the 10 martyrs, including Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Ishmael, Rabbi Akiva. We have many debates between them, if you recall. And Shimon ben Gamliel is one of them. Horrific end that the Romans brought him to. So there's a question over here that some of the commentaries, discuss. He says, all my days I grew up among the sages. So what is in reference to? So some say this is the reason why it gives only his name Shimon, because it's actually speaking about his days in his youth before he was ordained. And this is speaking about the greatness of his father. All my days, right, as a son of, the son Shimon, meaning, hey, he's got a father. And because of a great father, how was he raised? Among sages. He grew up with sages. That's what the Magen Avos says, at Tosis Yom Tov. And that's why there's no title here, because we're speaking about him. That part of the statement was made before he got rabbinic ordination and became a great leader. That's one of the commentaries that explain it that way. However, other commentaries don't understand it and see it that way. They say, no. It's speaking about him. And when is it speaking about him? Kol Yamai, all my days. So it wasn't when he was young. He was older. He was older. After ordination, and not only after ordination, as a leader. And what was his greatness? What is the greatness that he's speaking about over here? That all my days I still continue to learn from others, even though he's the leader. He's learning from others. He's listening to what they have to say. He's humble. And that's why there is no title here. Even though in other Mishnahs and other places we do have a title. He is Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. But here, as it's speaking more about him in his personhood, right? It's speaking about him in a personal manner, right? How he grew all his days is because he was able to listen and to hear others. So this Mishnah is really teaching us what it means to be a good listener.
But aren't all smart people, Rabbanim, whatever, aren't all tzaddikim supposed to learn from others? And that's part of growing and learning and being.
Oh, absolutely. But, as we learned at the very beginning of the Pirkei Avot, we mentioned that these were particular, unique statements from them. It means they didn't teach other things, only this. They taught a lot of things, but this was something, special in their teachings that other teachers, every teacher has their specialty, shall we say, right? So this was his specialty that he's bringing to ethical teachings for us to learn from, right? So does that mean other rabbis didn't follow that? Of course they did, right? He was perhaps just more, pronounced in this area than others, but not taking away from any others. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So since this is speaking about him in his personal regard of how he saw others, even as a leader, he was able to put himself, aside in the sense in humility that I learned from the sages. So again, he was particularly pronounced in this area, not suggesting that others weren't, because this is his statement. Okay. So we're talking about here in this Mishnah, the art of listening, the humility that it takes to listen, right? What does that mean? So the first thing is, of course, the humility right here that we see is, as he's referred to, the son of his son Shimon, and that he has a mindset of what? Always learning from others, from other sages, as if like I grew up with sages around me, the sages are always around me. And sages were always around him, but seemingly he was their teacher. But in his humility, I grew among sages and learned from them. How do you get there? That's the next point that he makes. The next point that he makes, how do you get there to be able indeed to learn from others? I have not found for my body anything better than silence. So we ask the question, the body, what do you mean the body? Why for the body? Oh, because what's the body? The body has its own agenda, right? The body has an agenda of being self-directed, self-fulfillment, self-aggrandizement. So what does the body want? It wants to express itself, right? It wants to express itself. And that doesn't mean it has to be in an ugly way. It could be, right? And this, the Rambam gives us, before going further, in self-expression, the Rambam speaks about 5 levels of self-expression. Required speech, forbidden speech, repulsive speech, desirable speech, and permitted speech. What's required speech? What I'm doing right now. What you're doing right now. Well, I'm speaking, but when you speak also, studying Torah is required speech. It's a biblical commandment, right? Then there's forbidden speech like Lashon Hara, false testimony, lies, gossip, vulgarity, right? Then there's repulsive speech, which repulsive meaning that it doesn't have a benefit or a harm. Forbidden is like very harmful. Repulsive is not harmful, but you could call it idle chatter. I mean, it's, how's the weather? That's idle chatter. I used to make the joke, people talk about either people, events, or ideas, and when all else fails, what are you talking about? The weather. Today, something added. All else fails, we talk about COVID. It's a conversation that COVID doesn't enter. What is that called? Idle chatter. It's idle chatter. Weather, it's idle chatter. I mean, unless I'm going out in half an hour. Do you know if it's going to be cold out? Should I wear a coat? Okay, that's not idle chatter because that is what we call permitted speech, right? But just, talk about, that's idle chatter. Then there's desirable speech. What's desirable speech? It's not required speech. Torah learning is required speech. Desirable speech is that when you're speaking something that is inspiring to another. So it's not specifically a mitzvah of study of Torah that you're required to do, right? But if you are uplifting somebody and giving them, perspective on something. Now, if it's Torah teachings, and then it's Torah study, right? But if it's just, you could do it, you've got the strength, and you can overcome. So that's a desire. That's not a required speech, but it's a desirable speech. It's good. It's a good, because you are empowering somebody by way of example. And then there's permitted speech. Like, is it going to rain today that I should take my umbrella? Or for business, you need to discuss some issues, right, of business. That's permitted. It's not desirable speech because, you're talking about business. It's not uplifting, empowering, and doing, in the speech itself, something positive. There might be an outcome that's positive, right? And obviously, it's not a required speech. So those are the 5 things, right? So now the body will speak forbidden speech, idle chatter, repulsive speech, right? Idle chatter. It will speak about permitted things like business, right? Probably it's not going to be inspired to speak desirable speech or required speech of Torah, right? So the question is, the body, how do I deal with it? That I should be able to listen to another. That I should be able to be humble enough that I could learn and have the sages around me at all times. Even when I'm the sage, right? As Shimon ben Gamaliel was the sage in his time when he was the leader. So how am I going to do that? I got to silence the body. What does that mean? In other words, there's different ways on how I can what's the word? I can what's the word? Humble the body and its agenda. We learned this in Tanya, right? So, for example, the body wants to eat. So what can I do? I push off my eating by 10 minutes. I didn't give in to my desire of the body that it wants to eat. What did I do? Well, first of all, I didn't allow my body to control me in those 10 minutes. And I allowed myself to be sanctified as a result of that and be exalted that my soul is greater than my body. That's a way to not allow the agenda of the body to control me, right? My body / animal soul, I'm, someone hurt me, hurt my feelings, said something, whatever. So what do? I bite my tongue. I don't respond. I'm able to, right? That's a way to deal with it. So here we're talking about in the art of listening, how do you silence the body? I don't allow is by silencing the body. Don't talk and express yourself. Maybe even when it comes to Torah study. If, for the vantage point, in other words, give space for the other, right? Not that you shouldn't study Torah. We'll get to that in a moment, right? Well, in other words, for the sake of your body, that the body wants, to express itself. The fact that you won't express yourself, you'll be silent, is not allowing the body's agenda to control you. And by that silence, that will give you then the capacity to listen and to learn and always grow up amongst the sages. To always be learning and to gaining. That's what it's saying to us, right? So again, what are you doing? You're humbling the body by the fact that you're silencing it and not speaking at a time that will allow you to listen and to learn. There's a story told once of an arrogant individual who, didn't make space for others. Like, he was a smart guy and had what to say, and therefore expressed and said what he had to say. But, because he had a lot what to say, there wasn't room for someone else to say. So he was once speaking, and he said that I once heard from a great scholar, da-da-da-da. So it happened to be that great scholar was in the audience, or part of the group, and listening to what he had to say. He was quoting this great scholar. So the great scholar gets up and says, use the moment to be able to a teachable lesson. He says, that's a lie. You didn't hear that. It's quite apparent that you don't know what it means to listen, because you're just continuously talking and no space for anybody else. So it's not possible that you have heard that from anybody, let alone from me. So this is what he's saying, is that, to be able to hold back, and it's specifically by people who have, someone who doesn't have what to share, doesn't have what to say. Well, the fact that they're smart and they don't say, that's not a big accomplishment. Okay, so you're smart enough not to look like a fool, because you only have a few marbles and making a lot of noise. When you take a can and shake a can with a few marbles, makes a lot of noise. So you're smart enough to know that, hey, don't do that. But when you have a lot of marbles, so you do have what to share, you do have. So it takes a humility to be able to, what's good for the body, meaning for the self-aggrandizement of my being, right? I need to silence that. And that by silencing it, I can listen to others, and I will always grow up learning from them. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that's good for the body, but I also have a soul, right? I also have a soul. And I don't live life only because of the body. Yes, I've got to harness and tame the animal and body and my body within me. True. But at the same time, I also have to be real, and I have to access and be aware and connect with my soul. So then comes the next statement, that the essential thing is the opposite, is not study. Studies not study, but it's the deed, the action. Where it comes to the body, action, the best action for it is silence. When it comes to the soul, the best thing for the soul is action, the deed. Why is the deed the best thing for the soul, not the study? Even though, as Lily pointed out, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, the study of Torah is equal to all the other mitzvahs, is because ultimately, our purpose here is to make a dwelling place for God in this world. How's that done? Through action, right? Not through study. Study enables us to do the actions, the mitzvahs, the deeds that are necessary to transform this world from a world that is dark to a world that's light, a world that is not full of godliness to a world that is full of godliness, right? So I have to go from the opposite now of the quietness of the body that I'm taming, right, to fulfillment of what my purpose is. My purpose is not taming the animal within me. That's necessary that I could grow, but my purpose ultimately is to change this world. I got to change this world. That's what I'm here for. So how am I changing it? Of course, I got to study, but that will not bring my full purpose of what my soul came into this world for. My soul came into this world in order that I could make a dwelling place for God in the physical reality of this world. And that's therefore the essential thing is the deed, not the study. The study in this respect, second layer, is to help me to come to do the deed.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Leah.
And that's what I was going to say. The body is necessary to do the deeds. You need the body to do the actions, right?
Of course, yes. Yeah, but doesn't contradict the point that we spoke about previously about the body, right? We're talking about the body and its agenda and its nature that needs to be silenced, right? That it needs to not seek its self-aggrandizement, and you need to silence it, because if you don't, then you're not going to grow. You're not going to be learning and growing. So you need to do that. However, don't think that that's all. That's from the body what you need to do. For the sake of the soul, which is the fulfillment of why your soul came into this world, right? You need to do the deed. Because the deed, the mitzvah that's done with physical objects in this world is what's transforming the physical reality of this world. If we study Torah, we're left in the world of silence, so to speak, relatively speaking, to the world of action. We're in the world of thought. So we're going now to the complete opposite. And that's the paradox over here, right? The balancing of two opposites over here, right? Of the world of silence, the world of thought, maybe if you want to call it that, right? Of refrain, holding back, not allowing, taming the body, and that will allow you to listen. Listening, is thought, being more mindful, allows you that. Now, no, okay, but you might get lost there, and then you're not going to be fulfilling what you were created for. So, no. The most important thing is the action for the sake of the soul and its fulfillment in this world. Hey, the main thing, the essential thing is the action. Right, so you see how we have the paradox over here. We're going to the other extreme from the soul's perspective, right? So don't lose that. Don't lose that. So what we have over here then is thought, right? Welcome, Michael. Welcome, Irma, Davida, Katie. So what we have here is thought in the, sort of being able to listen, right? That's sort of in your thoughts, right? That you're able to do that. We have action, we have deed. And the most important thing is the mitzvah, the action-oriented mitzvahs. So where's speech come in? So the last point he makes is, don't be excessive in your speech. What's excessive talk that causes sin? What is excessive? Excessive talk is that when you're talking and it doesn't bear fruit, that's excessive. If you're talking and your talk comes to something, brings fruition to something, plants a seed that the seed could grow into something meaningful and beautiful and wonderful to change the world, then that's wonderful talk. Then that's talk of a required talk like we're doing now of a mitzvah, or desirable speech, right? That is empowering. It may not be Torah study, but it's empowering and giving strength to the person, that they can do what they got to do, or, or not do what they shouldn't do. So as the example of the previous Rebbe, two Jews come together, should be a benefit for a third, right? How do you know you came together? How do you know that you had a conversation that was, real bonding and meaningful conversation? As if there's benefit for another, right? In other words, something came out of it, it bore fruit. If not, then it's called excessive speech that will eventually bring you to sin. Will bring you to a bad place. Because then you're going to talk the talk, but not walk the walk. So
sorry, I didn't get that. Why? Sorry. Why would it bring me to sin if I excessive talk? I didn't get.
So who can explain to me excessive talk according to what we just explained?
Something that doesn't bear fruit.
Thank you, Katie. Perfect.
Bear fruit. What does that mean? What does bear fruit mean?
It means nothing positive came out of that conversation with another person, right? If there's nothing that that is helping another, or you're helping that person, two people, either you're helping that person, you're being helped, so that there's bearing fruit, or you're helping a third person, right? That was what the Rebbe said, why he gave out dollars on Sundays, right, to encourage people to give tzedakah. So there's a coming together of two people for the benefit of a third person because you're giving tzedakah, right? So, I mean, it could bear fruit with each other, right? That you're helping that person. So that's bearing fruit. So that's not excessive talk. Excessive talk means dvarim b'telim, that there's nothing coming out of this. There's
But
nothing.
how does that make me sin? Why would that make me sin? How is that sinful? Like, how would that make me sin?
That itself is, because that will lead you down a slippery slope ultimately. But that itself is a sin. It brings you to sin. That itself. So, here we had say Torah study is not the essential. So in speech, what's interesting. So we had Torah study, which is required speech, right? But ultimately, that required speech is in order to bring you to deed, right? So if you study Torah, it needs to bring you lilmod lalamed lasos. That it should bring you to learn, to teach, and to do. Right? So when you learn Torah, it has to bring you to action, that you do the mitzvah, because the main thing, the essential thing is the act, right? So the same thing is, that's in Torah study, which is required speech, but then there is other forms of speech. How do you know that speech is permissible? How do you know that this is appropriate? Because it bears fruit. Otherwise, it's called excessive. That's what excessive speech is. Right.
I'm just thinking about women talking. I'm just thinking about talking with my friends. Very little fruitful conversation. I don't remember, I can't give you examples, but I never thought it was sinful per se.
Well,
per se.
I mean, it says maybe. It's going to bring you, obviously, from there to speak Lashon Hara, for sure. If you're not mindful of how this conversation could be bear fruit, so obviously then what you're from one, excessive conversation about, what it's going to lead you is to Lashon Hara, to forbidden talk. It will lead you there. It has to lead you there, right? Because you're not mindful of this speech, that it should be bringing benefit from it. So what's interesting is we have Torah study, which is also speech, is also not the essential, because it has to bring you to action. In other words, that form of speech has to bring you to, in other words, that the Torah study, we need to study, right? For sure you need to study, but it needs to bring you to action, right? And that brings you to the fulfillment of what you were created for, is to change this world and make it the dwelling place for Hashem in this world, right? And also the other forms of speech, right, that we spoke about, the Rambam's, the 5 levels we spoke about speech, also those that are, permissible, and those that are desirable, and those that are required to be dealt with, should also be a means to a greater end, that it bear fruit in some positive manner, right? That it bears fruit. So let's say you're doing business and you need to talk about business. So it needs to bear fruit that, and it was strictly business, right? It wasn't, but you do your business and you make your money so you could do good with that money. So it's going to bear fruit. That discussion, okay, right now is just about, the production line in in the factory, whatever, right? By way of example, that's all you spoke about. And what benefit that? Well, first of all, the well functioning of the factory is an important thing, which gives livelihood to people, which is important. That livelihood, they can then raise a family, and and they can give tzedakah and do good. So that itself has, but even you and your mindfulness and your awareness of this discussion and purely business, it's not pure business to you, because your whole business is only in order that you could help and do good for others. Yes.
I'm just thinking about women talking about women, and I'm thinking about my friends who have to vent and tell me about their problems or their issues or whatever. And I think it's desirable speech or desirable listening that I'm doing. Maybe it could end up a little complaining about their kid, their husband, whatever. But I thought I was doing a service to them to make them feel better by listening to them and having. You know what I'm saying?
Who says you're not? I'm not going to judge you on that. And you know, but maybe, and perhaps you are indeed, right? First of all, you know, if you're doing this for their benefit, and this is right, so then that intent is very important. Then sometimes you just got to know, you know, am I really helping them, or am I actually doing something detrimental? You know, am I adding fuel to the fire, or am I taking away the fire? You know, so those are some of the questions sometimes we have to ask ourselves, and you know, it's not always so obvious. But if your intent is just let me hear the scoop, then that's about your body, and let your body be silent, right? Let your body be silent. You're not going to hear the scoop. But if it's about, oh, I hear you're in pain, so you know, is there a way I can, you know, what's going on? What's happening? Then it's, you know, that's not your body talking, that's your soul, right? Then you're doing with an intent to help. So, you know, hopefully you'll be helpful. Sometimes we're not, sometimes we, you know, but definitely that's where you're going. So that's good. Michael.
Yes, I was just, I'm revising it every minute as I listen between the two of you, because basically I'm talking about casual conversation too. If you're in a social setting, basically I just say my radar is up, but other than that, no, it's my friends, and I'm going to take in whatever, and I'm going to be judicious in things like that. And I do have a concept of lashon hara because I was a journalist for years. I hear everything. But anyway, the main thing I was just looking at is I wouldn't want to be guarded on everything I say, or if somebody wants to talk about their day or whatever else. If I can do good, that's my primary function in what I'm trying to do. Also, I talk excessively anyway, so I try to judge that all the time. But it's all a balancing act. So that's pretty much what I was thinking about.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing. So it's like you said, a balancing act. Exactly. If it's the body, so then, you know, which is, you know, give me the scoop type of thing. So then maybe you should silence it. If it's the soul and fulfillment of your purpose, and that's why, you know, so you're right, you know, you got to listen to the person, and sometimes you know, you're going to hear things that you'd rather not hear, or and so on, and that's actually a good sign too. You know, the very fact that, yeah, I'd rather not hear, but maybe I need to hear this just because, you know, it's my friend, and you know, just to kind of be there for my friend. So that's actually a good sign that, you know, you'd rather not hear it, but you know, because of your purpose of your purpose of trying to help and benefit, you know, and what that means, help and benefit, sometimes is, you know, has a broad definition to it, and sometimes, you know, we got to be careful also, and in that. But if we're aware of it, and that's the point over here, it's the awareness, right? If we have that awareness of the body versus the soul. So in that, you know, listening, sometimes, you know, also depending on the person, that the person, they don't want to hear me say anything. They just need the sounding board. And sometimes they figure it out themselves. And that's what I'm there for. And it could be just that, literally. Sometimes, you know, you help them to process it through, and help guide them maybe in a very, you know, gentle way, that they can, you know, figure out where they're not being able to figure it out. So you help to guide them. And sometimes, you know, if they're open to it, you need to be very frank with them. You know, it could be any one of those three general kind of ways. Either they figure it out themselves, or you help to guide them that they figure it out, or you tell them something clear.
I just think in
anyone.
The same thing in reverse. I tend to hold back unless there is some purpose in my reaching out to somebody. If there's something troubling me, and it really wouldn't benefit to bother others about it, depending on the person. I'm just as comfortable keeping it in.
Okay, that's a different issue. That's the Silach Harav we spoke about, and we say, "Knei lecha chaver," make yourself a mentor, and you have to buy a friend, acquire a friend. So we spoke about those things already. So you're gonna have to go back on the reruns, right? But here we're talking about you and how you are the listener, because that's our Mishnah, right? That's what our Mishnah is about. You being the listener. Right, not you reaching out to somebody else that they should listen to you. That's our Mishnah over here, at least what we're learning, right? But you reaching out, so we learned about that in the previous ones. All right, folks. I didn't hear from Tim. I didn't hear from Abigail, Irma, Davida, Eugenia, Katie. Well, no, Katie, we heard a bit. Yes, she gave a good answer. All right, thank you for the wave, Tim. All right, folks. We'll see you on Thursday. All right.
All
you.
right, bye.
And tomorrow night for those who are part of the Mashiach course. Very exciting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.